Hello, everybody. This probably won't be a very long stream. Sometimes when I have a video idea, I just have trouble really getting it out in a coherent fashion. Like, I'll sit there, I'll stare at the screen, I'll try recording it a whole bunch of times, and it just never seems to go anywhere. Sometimes I'll just fire up to do it to do it in the form of a stream, just because I don't know if it necessarily makes me more confident, but it makes me focus. It makes me focus. So this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a little while. So there's been the ongoing theme, I guess you could say, or cliche, is that nothing ever happens. And I mean, we've all repeated this, we've all said this numerous times. Nothing ever happens. Um, nothing ever changes. And this is kind of a debate that I have with SERP off and on, wherein whether we think the current system will go on forever, will go on indefinitely, or if it will eventually collapse under the weight of its own hypocrisies, of its own contradictions. And once again, this is kind of a thing where we go back and forth. Something I've really noticed this year is I feel like things are different. Um, Not so much necessarily what's been going on behind the scenes, but in terms of what's going on in front of the scenes. I feel like the level of authoritarianism that we're facing now in Western countries has reached a point that I can't really recall in my lifetime. Um, I think it's gotten progressively worse, and I do think in a lot of countries they are almost at this point in a death spiral. This year was said to be the biggest ever year for elections, and just so many things have happened to kind of undermine it. Now, as you all know, I'm not the biggest fan of democracy to begin with. The reality is that democracy to most people means when your side wins. Um, it's democratic if your side wins, it's non democratic if your side loses. But I think there at least used to be something of an understanding that you would at least respect the forms. That there would be some political pluralism. People would be allowed to vote. You would have changes in government. There would be some room for there to be political discussions or real changes in policy or real changes in society. But I feel like that's not even there's not even a pretense of this anymore compared to how there used to be back in the day. So let's just go through what I'm talking about. Now, I was watching Daniel Davis. If you don't follow him, he's really good. He's a former U.S. Army colonel, and he was talking about behind the scenes how Trump repeatedly ordered the U.S. Army to withdraw from Afghanistan, to withdraw from Syria, and they just didn't listen to him. He made it sound like they convinced him to not do it. I think they probably lied to him, or they might have even threatened him, because during a lot of the BLM riots, the army just refused to listen to Trump. Actually, they also refused to listen to Biden when he asked them to shoot down the Chinese spy plane. And I can't really recall another time in U.S. history where you've had an army that started to interfere as much as the current one has in the political process. And I think it's just going to continue to get worse. And I would not be surprised if Trump wins that there isn't some. I don't know. I don't think there'll be a coup, but you know what I mean? Like, we don't know anymore. We're entering, I think, very uncharted territory. The map on the screen. Oh, sorry, I should have explained that. The map on the screen is all the countries that had elections this year. We'll get into it in a bit more detail, but I'm trying to make a point with this, and we'll just go country by country. So you have that. Um, I feel though like in a lot of countries that have had elections this year or will have elections, there's not even a pretense anymore. And I could get the articles together. There's a bunch in the Guardian and some other places, but I think we've all read them before. Um, there's been a bunch of elections, and there's not even a pretense that the results will be respected. So let's just go country by country. So in the UK, we had an election between a decayed, decrepit, gangrenous, fetid, rotten political establishment. Nobody liked any of the people who were running. Nobody liked Labour. No one liked the Tories. No one liked the Lib Dems. No one liked the SNP. I mean, Reform is fucking lame, to be honest. They're better than the others, but they're super lame. Nobody liked any of these people. If you look at what the approval ratings were, they were all underwater. Even the guy who won with a super majority was underwater. But I think what happened with the British election and what is continuing to happen in its aftermath is the elite of Britain are so wedded to their consensus. Their, I don't know what you want to call it, globalist consensus, liberal consensus, whatever it is, that I think what the British election was about was, and the Duran brought this up, and I think it's very true, is Rishi Sunak was asked to take one for the team. Rishi Sunak was asked to take one for the team. He was told, "Look, Rishi, you're going to lose, but if you call it now, Labour will get a super majority, and they can implement more political repression with their super majority, and we'll make sure that you get a nice job somewhere on Wall Street or something like that. But if this goes on, we might actually get to zero state seats. The Conservative Party might actually permanently collapse, and the Labour Party might collapse, and we might actually get real political change in this country, and we might have political parties that actually represent the average person in said country." But they didn't want that to happen, and so the situation we have now is Labour got elected with a relatively small share of the vote. The electoral system, I don't think there's actual electoral fraud in the UK, but it depends how one considers it. I mean, is the fact that there's state media that is 100% biased in one direction, can we consider that to be a form of electoral fraud? Um, can you consider the entire media collaborating together to put a specific message forward of all the political elites of most of the parties playing footsie under the table? Can you consider that to be electoral fraud? I mean, if you did, then yes, that is the case. And now that Keir Starmer is in power, we had a something I never thought we would actually see. We had something of a counter reaction. We had people in the UK and what I consider to be the most weak, tepid, dystopian, postmodern hellhole in the entire West rise up and say, "No, we want change. We don't like this. This election system sucks. We don't like that our country's been sold to foreigners. We want our country back." And there's not even a pretense anymore. Like it's not there's not even a pretense that like he's not going out and trying to say, "Look, I understand your concerns. We're going to try to give you some concessions. We're going to try to do this. We're going to try to do." There isn't even that. It's just everyone's being thrown in jail. From what I've heard, they are emptying out the prisons of violent criminals so they can put more Indigenous British people in jail. Um, I think that you will. They're cracking down on media. I'm sure more and more independent publications will just be shut down. Um, they're going to probably rejoin the the EU. The speculation that I heard is that they're somewhat tanking the economy um, to create dissent, but not enough dissent. Or rather, the elite like the current situation because there's dissent, so they know who to arrest, but there's not enough dissent to threaten their power. And so it's kind of the ideal environment for them to consolidate. But has Keir Starmer even said, like, has he promised anything to the British people? Has he said, we're going to have a better future? I understand your concerns, to try to deflect it and say, oh, it's the working class people are having trouble and they're blaming immigrant. No, they're just going to jail. They're just evil. They're just going to lock up a sizable percentage of the country's population. I mean, the UK was already a police state, but it's just going to get more and more of a police state as time comes on. So that's the UK. It's bad, and I think once again, I understand that this stuff has all been there. Um, I understand that there's always been like it's always been behind the scenes, and they've at least paid lip service, or they've just allowed people, they've allowed controlled opposition or stuff. Like, they don't even do that anymore. um so it's a mess. So that's what's going on with the UK. Now let's talk about France, because France is like, okay, so let's look at the French election, shall we? So we had the French election. Now the National Rally won by any objective measurement. If we're going to look at democracy as being who people vote for, more than a third of the French people um, voted for the National Rally. Now, of the actual French people, I couldn't find any numbers, but I would not be surprised if at this point in time, at least a plurality, if not a majority, of the actual French people voted for that. They said, we want change. We are the indigenous people of this country. It's our country. But they don't matter. So what? Why is it happening in the French election system? So the National Rally won. They got 37% of the vote. However, what wound up happening is we had New Popular Front and Rassemblement, Macron's party, did some like insane shenanigans, wherein, okay, so it's, I don't really want to get into detail. Basically, France has a runoff electoral system. So what wound up happening is in every district and in every riding in which there was a runoff, and there was a New Popular Front, that is the coalition of the left, and one of Macron's party running, they would bow out and basically endorse the other. Or they do it in a much sleazier way and say, oh, we're not endorsing them. It's just that the even the communists have, we share values with them more than we share values with the relatively, I don't know, the people who aren't even that radical. So what wound up, so if you look at what the total number of seats are, because of this, the New Popular Front won a plurality with 180 seats, despite getting 10%, 12% less of the, sorry, 11% less of the vote than National Rally. The Republican, Macron's party basically also getting blown out. They also lost the election. So what's going on now in France is they're trying to form a government. So both these two parties have said we will not form a government with the National Rally under any circumstances. We are so committed to the status quo that we're willing to have like literal communists work with like neoliberals and globalists and all this stuff rather than allow the right anywhere near power. So Macron, though, that's not good enough for him. He has said to the New Popular Front. So the New Popular Front, I believe, has put forward a rather moderate figure within it. I think it's from the Socialist Party or one of the less radical parties that make up the New Popular Front. And they've suggested her to be the prime minister. And they said, look, we should be allowed to form a government because we got the most seats. Now, if you look at but Macron has said no. You have to support my party. Macron has the right to appoint whoever the prime minister is going to be. He's the president, but he has the right to appoint the prime minister, especially when no one has an absolute majority. So Macron has just said, look, I'm not going to appoint a prime minister until the socialists bend the knee, kiss the ring, and support my candidate. So it doesn't matter that my party came third in terms of popular vote. It doesn't matter that my party didn't come first in terms of the number of seats. All that matters is I want to maintain the Eurocratic, the whatever bizarro freak of nature Macron and his government are. And they will cave. They will cave. I'm sure that the New Popular Front will split apart. Them and the Republicans will form some kind of majority government, and they'll just do whatever Macron tells them to do. And France Unbowed is going to feel good about themselves that they played a role in allowing Macron to continue on doing what he's doing to France, because they stood for principle. They didn't let the National Rally take power. They didn't let them take power. And that would have been the worst thing ever. So that looks like just where France is. The election didn't matter. It didn't matter that Macron's party only got 21% of the vote. It doesn't matter that they came in third. And there was an article in The Guardian that said that Macron's party came in, they said the New Popular Front got the most votes and should have the right to form government, but they didn't get the most votes. They got nowhere near the most votes. So I would actually imagine, I would be very surprised if you were to combine the Republicans and National Rally, if a majority of the actual French people didn't vote for right-wing parties. They probably did, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the election goes. They'll just come up with some sort of thing. And now we have the Saxon election. And is it Thuringian? So in Thuringia, the AfD won. They won by a pretty large margin, actually. So Schultz's party, I think actually got wiped out in Saxony. Schultz's party didn't win a single seat. Does the FDP even have candidates there? No. So Schultz's coalition has been reduced to 7 seats total in the Saxon state election. However, what will happen is all the other parties, I don't know, probably the communists and the CDU will form a coalition to prevent the AfD from getting anywhere. My understanding is they actually did win, but then some shenanigans happened at the last minute where they switched a seat over, or something like that, um, that gave them more votes. So it doesn't matter. Um, and I think they even said just because people vote doesn't mean that they gain power. Yeah, they got a seat overturned. Thank you, blue team. Because yeah, I remember the OFDA actually did get 41 seats, but they something mysterious happened, and it doesn't really matter. It wouldn't have made a material difference. But you get the point. It's they aren't. There's no discuss. Like I saw one thing where it shows like they have it Democratic and non-democratic parties. So it's like the Democratic vote that like they started to say like the CDU won the majority of the Democratic vote because the 30% of people who voted off that they don't they don't count. They don't count. They don't even exist. They're non-persons. I don't know that much about the like the far left party. But anyways, I think they're also kind of included in the non establishment group. So that doesn't matter. Now, in the Thuringian state election, the AfD won a pretty convincing victory. It doesn't matter, though. What will happen is you will get an alliance of everybody else, the CDU, the Communists, the Social Democrats, the Greens, um, did they win a majority? To prevent them from taking power, because it doesn't matter who actually won the election. It doesn't matter. Let's see. What is the government formation going to be? Has that been established yet? To go into coalition with either the CDU or SPD. Who's there? Who is that? Has it said what the government formation is? When a plurality of state elections since World War II, it's the way it is. Let's see here. Yeah, like the CDU will probably form a coalition with the communists, with the left wing parties. And I mean, if you look at Germany, like let's see here next, German, like the Schultz government is extremely unpopular. Um, so AfD will probably come in second in the next election. The FDP might actually get wiped out. They might not even get any seats. But it's not going to matter. What'll probably happen, and this is also something that happens in Austria, is you'll just have a rainbow coalition. The CDU and the SPD and the Greens will just form another coalition government, and it doesn't matter who actually wins the election. And keep in mind, this is all within the context of a system where even if, like, to a certain extent, does it even really matter? Um, if if the polls are rigged or not, because the entire system, from the funding to the media to the education system to stuff like that, I think it's important to keep in mind that even within that context, even within the media universally being against some of these parties, they still win elections, or they still win a plurality of the election. And once again, if you were to look at how the actual German people voted, it's going to be a higher percentage still. I would not be surprised if in some upcoming elections, a majority of the population will probably vote for the far left populist party and the AfD. So we have that happening. So like once again, it doesn't really matter what happened in France. It doesn't matter what happened in the UK. Um, Pakistan, I think they overturned the results of the election with Khan. I don't know as much about that. Let's see here. Portugal. I think that also in Portugal they basically did Chega come in. Uh, yeah, the center the fake conservatives are in, I think are just in like a minority government that is somewhat, I think, has an unofficial supply and confidence with the Socialist Party because we can't allow Chaga to have any influence in the government. They won't even throw them a bone, which is interesting. Let's see, where does it say under government formation? Um, uh, yeah, so basically the socialists just said, look, it doesn't the election results don't matter. We're just gonna basically the system's just gonna kind of continue on as is. And my home country of Canada, I I like I'm feeling blackpilled. The other day I went out and I was walking around on Sunday. I actually wanted to go to confession, and probably about 70% of the people I saw were Indian. Um, like I don't even live in like a in what's normally seen as a cosmopolitan part of the country. I live in like the shitty part of the country that no one wants to live in. But it's like 80%, it's like it was like 70% Indian. It's just every public space. And this has all happened in the last couple of years under the Justo junta. And just the amount of demographic change that's happened in like the last 4 years in Canada is astounding. However, the problem is our alternative might actually increase immigration even more. Let me see here. Let's see here. Canada. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. This I think portrays it very well. So, um Gesto has basically doubled the number of immigrants over the last couple of years. I think it's even higher in 2024. Pretty much all of them like yeah, this is what's happened in the last couple of years here. Like it was bad before, but it's just, and this is largely what's covering the whole housing crisis and stuff like that. Now, I keep seeing the woe is me articles about the Indians in Canada. Yeah, no, but it is working against you because what's starting to happen is if you go to Twitter, you're actually starting to see Canadians complain about immigration, which is honestly something that I never thought I would ever see in my lifetime. Because generally speaking, the Canadian people are very pro immigration, including immigration from the third world, and it's really really cringy. Like I know in where I used to live, I know where I used to live, they had a celebration when the first like African family moved in because it was bringing diversity to our all white neighborhood, and that was seen as like a sign of success. And just stuff like people don't understand, like particularly people from the but no, like if you go on Reddit, Maybe I'll do a maybe we'll do like a field trip at some point and go look at Reddit. Because on Canadian Reddit, people are complaining about immigration. Let's do a little field trip. Reddit. Um, if you're planning to move to in Canada, don't. Are the recent Indian immigrants that bad? Can someone explain why Indian immigrants are coming to Canada? Want to do after getting their permanent residence? Uh, Result of mass immigration to India. How is it? Um, if Indians can just come to Canada and make demands, even like Canadian Reddit is complaining. Um, about it, and I think that says something. Live for Fresco job interview in Canada. Uh, let's see here. And this a lot of this has happened in a very short period of time. Um, but no, like if you look at Twitter, it's just it's actually I've never seen this kind of thing um, before in my life. Like the amount of just like edgy stuff and like I was talking to friends of mine and they were like, yeah, even my liberal family was complaining about immigration. It's gotten so severe over the last period of time. Keep in mind, Canada's population is 40 million people. So 1% of the population each year is immigrating, mostly from India, but also from Africa. Now, fortunately, some of this is from Ukraine. And as I've said, I'm willing to accept an unlimited number of refugees from Ukraine. If the entire population of Ukraine wants to move to Canada, I'm okay with that. But it's and there's this video. I don't know if anybody's seen it. Um, Let me see if I can find it. Where this like blue collar worker just felts Justin Trudeau. It is like let's just take a look at. This is one of the biggest feltonings I think I've ever seen in my life. Let's see. Where is it?
Hey, I'm fine. Just one of the again. Well, we got donuts over here if you want to thank you for your hard work. I can bring some for my kids here. Okay. The 25% tariffs we just brought in on Chinese steel is going to help you out. That's going to keep my job, yeah. What about the 40% taxes I'm paying, and I don't have a doctor? The $400 million that we invested in the car means you're going to have a job for I think you're only here for another year. We won't see you around probably another year. Well, that's what elections are for. That's right, that's right. And I look forward to everyone exercising the right to vote. Yep. And the basic choice, we're going to invest in you and your job. So I don't believe you for a second. Dental care? Do you know anyone who got dental care? Yeah, I pay for it myself. Okay. We're like 3 years behind. You have a job and coverage? Yeah, but we got people seniors, in my family. We've got every time we go for a dental visit, it's costing me about $50 in my pocket per person. Okay. Why? I have a good job. You're not really doing anything for us, Justin. Well, actually, we just invest.
I actually took my headset off because I don't want to watch this again. And
so 500,000 people haven't been to the dentist. Yeah. Got to go to the dentist over the past few months. Probably like my neighbor that doesn't go to work because she's lazy. Well, she just doesn't go to work. She lives the same life I do. Most Canadians try to stick up for each other, and that's what we're going to keep doing. Yeah. Good luck and take care of your family, sir. No, I'm good. Thank you. All right. Have a nice day. Have a good day, sir. Good night. All right, the other guys.
Yeah, so that was Justo getting felted. So being gassed by the drama teacher. Thank you, sir, for speaking up. Let me see. I think everybody was like in the comments was supporting this dude. That guy was based. But yeah, I mean that's Justo. The thing is, Polyev will probably increase immigration further. Beyond I think he's talked about that. He's going to do with that. Like, say what you will about Mr. Harper, and I always call him Mr. Harper because I don't know, that's how I grew up. But he did not have the same degree of contempt for the average person. Actually, you know what's interesting? A little story. So my grandfather was very involved in the Conservative Party his whole life. When he died, Mr. Harper, who was a the leader of the opposition at the time, actually sent my grandmother a card expressing his sympathies. I actually have that framed it up on my wall at the moment, but I don't know. That's just a side note, just kind of a cool little souvenir I have. That and Harper dismantled a lot of the hate speech legislation. So I don't know. I know you guys. I know I'm hypocritical, and I told everybody to go vote for Trump, and I still think you should go vote for Trump because it's better than letting Kamala get in power. Um, as I've said, with regards to Trump, at least he doesn't openly hate the people he's going to rule over, which is more than I can say for Kamala or Obama or any of these Esslers. So, Lurker Clips, what are you saying is incredible? Is that I have the card from Stephen Harper? No, my grandfather was really big in the Conservative Party. He never ran for office, but he did a lot of fundraising. I don't think Trump does. Well, I don't really want to get into an argument over it at the moment, but and that's the issue. It's hard to break the conditioning. We need a politician who's right wing socially and left wing economically, in my opinion. I used to think that I've kind of I don't know. I'm center to center right on economics. I think it's I kind of think economics is somewhat of a technocratic thing. Um, that needs to be de-emphasized rhetorically. 'Cause a lot of dumb stuff happens. Um, but so that's kind of just where we are at the moment. Germany's probably, like I said, going to have another federal election. The CDU will probably win. They'll form another coalition. It's just going to kind of continue on. And of course, this goes to what makes you think Trump does? Are you talking to me or are you talking to oh Nagjib? But I don't know. I think the degree of force that's been used, the rhetoric degree, and stuff like that, is more than anything I've ever seen. I feel like even during the Obama era, I get that we had bitter clingers and stuff like that, and basket deplorables. Um, so, but I just feel like the level of demonization, just the level of force that they're willing to use, and just blatantly just changing electoral systems and stuff like that. Like I don't know what's going to happen in the fall. It'll probably be a shit show. Honestly, like elections in the U.S. shouldn't be this close. They shouldn't be this close. But the left has brought in massive demographic change. Like Once again, let's take a look at this graph. So once again, this is kind of, I think this encapsulates Western democracy as it is in a nutshell. I think that summarizes the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure the election map would look like that in most of Europe. So the only exception to this might be that with, I think, some Amerindians, they tend to vote red in some states, but I guess the one white pill of this is that like women aren't really the problem. They're not the core problem, at least, but so anyways, that's where we are. I can't say that I hope you enjoyed that, because it didn't, but I just kind of wanted to get out there, just summarize some of what's happening, and some of I don't know what's going to continue to happen, but I feel it's like it's past the nudging and it's on to the shoving. So anyways, everybody, God bless. Thanks for listening to my ramble.